Hey guys, today is July 30th, 2025, and I want to talk about August 8th, 8-8, and why I believe we may be in for another natural disaster, a water event. Whether it's a tsunami, a rain event, a flood, I don't know, but the evidence that I'm looking at points to another water event. So I've been looking at this date for a while, and it's very interesting that we just had an 8.8 magnitude earthquake with small tsunamis hitting the West Coast, Hawaii, Japan, Russia. So anyways, I want to start off by talking about July 16th. So I previously made a prediction connecting the Golden Gate Bridge with the number 88 to July 16th. And I also talked about before that John Tenta, also known as the Earthquake, was put into the Hall of Fame on the 88th anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge being completed, April 19th, 2025. And so I talked about a possible earthquake happening on July 16th. Well, the U.S. had its largest earthquake of the year on July 16th near Alaska, 7.3. And it's very interesting that the earthquake, one of his special moves, his most well-known move, is called the earthquake splash. And that equals 88. So we just had that event in water, and we also had the recent 8.8 earthquake in water causing tsunamis, right? And so July 16th was 88 years and 88 days after the Golden Gate Bridge was completed. So his full name is John Anthony Tenta Jr., which equals 79. Without the junior, it's 69. And that July 16th date was 79 days after his death. And so we just had that massive 8.8 earthquake striking off Russia, with small tsunami waves hitting Hawaii and the U.S. coast. Now look at from the time that the Golden Gate Bridge was completed to this earthquake, 88 years, 8 weeks, 8 days with the end date included, or 88 years, 64 days. And 64 is 8 times 8, right? Now, from the death date of the earthquake to this 8.8 earthquake was 6,992 days. Well, the number 8,000 happens to be the 6992 composite number. Now I want to go back and show a slide from one of my previous videos because it connects again to this coming 8-8. And it's a water event, right? We just had the Texas floods happening on July 4th and July 5th. I told you guys how Heliofont uploaded another video just showing the 3 reality stars from Vanderpump Rules, and they titled the video MBI 1345. And so this video was uploaded April 21st, 2024. And to the time of this event, with the end date included, it would have been July 4th without July 5th. But it was 13 months, 45 days after, right? The title was 1345. And I told you guys how I believe this connected to the scene from I Pet Goat 2, right? Heliofont uploads this video. They also make I Pet Goat 2. And they show this image up close of George Bush's eyebrows and his face. Myself, as well as many others, believe that this looks like a wave on his eyebrows, right? And we had a water event in Texas. George Bush being from Dallas, Texas. And so this is what the scene represents. It could represent other things as well, but they're showing the close-up of the eyebrows and the eyes, just like George Bush. And so we have the 1345 connection from the time that this was uploaded to this big flood in Texas, July 4th and July 5th. This also looks like a 7.5, right? But if you reverse it, I will show you in another video that it's clearly the number 72. And I believe another water event is coming tied to the number 72. It's a date that I have that I will show in another video. Now, speaking of the number 1345, when we look at the time that iPet Goat 2 released to 88, it's exactly 13 years and 45 days apart. So, we have this connection with the flood in this video to the number 1345. And now we are looking at 88 connecting to the number 1345 with the release date of iPet Goat 2. Now, it's very interesting that after this July 4th, 5th flood in Texas, we have Mount Rainier having its largest swarm in years, biggest quake swarm in years. And of course, Mount Rainier has the word rain in it, right? And if we look from the date that Mount St. Helens erupted to this swarm beginning at Mount Rainier, it's 16,487 days. That's the 1,911th prime. So we have that 911 connection. And we also have the 88 connection because there's 176 days remaining in the year on July 8th. Well, 88 plus 88 is 176. And so there was a small eruption actually in 2008 on Mount St. Helens. And that also was 911 weeks and 6 days from the swarm beginning at Mount Rainier. But Mount Rainier in itself is like a fire and water theme, right? So a volcano that can create fire that has the word rain in it. So we just had the big 88 connection with the Los Angeles fires earlier on January 7th. And that was 88,880 days after Los Angeles was founded. Then afterwards, we had the ice raids and ice protests beginning in Los Angeles, right? So again, you have the fire and ice, fire and water theme. And also the same day that we had that 7.3 earthquake on July 16th that I just talked about, there was a fire that destroyed the stage of the Tomorrowland Festival. And it says the stage was designed around a magical universe made entirely of ice, featuring glaciers that melt to reveal a hidden community powered by red crystals. So you have the fire and ice theme again. Fire destroying a stage that looks like ice engulfing a city. And the movie Tomorrowland in itself is about climate and world disasters. So the scene in iPet Goat 2, we also have the fire and water theme showing. So as I just talked about, we had the 8.8 earthquake with a small tsunami hitting Hawaii. Hawaii's area code is 808. And back on 8/8/2023, we had the Maui fires. So as I showed you guys earlier, I showed you guys the connection with the iPet Goat 2, the 1345, the flood happening in Texas, and now we got 13 years, 45 days to August 8th. And that led me to do more research, believing we're going to have another water event. And look what I found. I found that Dustin Hoffman will be 88 years on 8/8. And why does that matter? Because he played in the movie Rain Man, right? I'm looking at a water event on 8/8. And this came out on December 12th, 1988. And from the date of this release to 8/8 is 13388 days. And even his name, Raymond Babbitt, is 88 and reverse reduction. He plays Raymond Babbitt in the movie Rain Man. Now we have a big 9/11 connection with the number 88 on 8/8. If you look, you don't see it, but you have to reverse the dates. I talked about this in my other videos. It seems that reversing the dates is an important method to finding connections. So if you reverse the dates, put the 8/8 over here, as I show in the below example, to 9/11, putting the 9/11 over here, keeping the years the same. Well, you have 8,800 days apart from 9/11. Now, we also have an interesting connection with Comey, his birth date to 8/8. We have the 8647 connection. 864 sidereal months, 7 days. He showed this photo of the 8647 on the sand that everybody was talking about, right? So that's really interesting. Now, the largest earthquake ever recorded in the U.S. happened in Alaska on Good Friday, 1964. And that also created a tsunami. And we have a 322 connection to that, 3,202 weeks. Now, I showed you guys the connection with George Bush and iPet Goat 2, the water and his eyebrow, right? Well, his birth date, 2/8/8, it will be 2/8/8/88 days. George Bush lives in Dallas, and President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. And it will be 3,220 weeks since Kennedy was killed. George Bush, he is a Skull and Bones member. Their number is 322. He lives in Dallas. So it's very interesting we got the 322 connection with Kennedy. Also, I have this connection with the calm before the storm. It equals 2/8/8 in reverse. In reverse, right? Now, reversing the date with Trump, his birth date, it's 2/8/8/00 days. So the calm before the storm in reverse, and we have the 2/8/8 connection with Trump, his birthday in reverse. So, that is very interesting as well, because I talked about the calm before the storm and several hurricanes happening with these numbers, 81, 2/8/8, and 99, from the time that he said the calm before the storm, October 5th, 2017. I'm not going to go over that. I already talked about that a few times in my videos, but it's really interesting with the 2/8/8 connection, Trump's birthday, because earlier this year I talked about Easter. We had the 2/8/8 connection. I thought maybe something was going to happen with Trump. It didn't. That's the date that the Pope died. He died on Easter Monday, right? But now we have the 2/8/8 in reverse. So 8/8 is the 220th day of the year. In iPet Goat 2, we have Obama looking down at the split apple. Obama has the V on his forehead. V is the 22nd letter. So this was also relevant with the first case of monkeypox in the U.S. May 18th, 2022, because that was 22,202 days after Obama was born. We also had George Floyd, a black man, being killed with 220 days remaining, right? Obama being black, looking scared. So this video is so multi-layered, right? And we also had the beginning of the stock market crash due to a virus, right? That begins with a V, on 2/20/2020. Then he's looking at the split apple, and I find it very interesting that Apple shares began going public at $22 a share on 12/12/1980. Then later, on the anniversary, 12/12/2023, he was shown in a classroom with children, and on the board it says all about that V. And I talked about before, Rain Man also released on 12/12. It will also be 666 lunar phases since Sean Duffy, the head of the Department of Transportation, was born. So will we see some type of water event that affects transportation, right? Now, usually I don't like to talk about personal events, but this is pretty crazy and I have to share it, because back in 2023, I had two separate dreams about snakes. I had a dream about a snake that was following me around. In my second dream, I actually killed the snake, but I think I had some like venom that went in my mouth and I had to go to the hospital or something like that. So right now we are in the year of the snake, right? Then I recorded the date of this dream, May 12th, 2025. I had a dream about lions. So I saw that lions were, it's not all clear what my dream was. It's hard to remember, but I think I was hiding and there were lions roaming about, and there were like people. They were just ignoring the lions, and the lions were like ignoring them. Like I thought maybe the lions were looking for me or something, and I don't know. But anyways, a lion attacked someone else. It was supposed to attack me, but it attacked someone else. So I think that's what happened. But that was on May 12th, 2025. And May 12th to 8/8 is 88 days. And on 8/8, there's something called the Lion's Gate portal. It says this is a significant annual astrological and spiritual event believed to reach its peak on August 8th each year. I think it begins and ends after August 8th, but it's said to reach its peak on August 8th. And so that day on May 12th, I was actually talking to my friend Dan, and I was telling him about my dream and how I thought something was going to happen on 8/8. I had it marked down, and I had the dream about the lions, and I was telling him about the Lion's Gate portal, right? Then, after I come back from my lunch, I go inside, and they're watching a movie is about to begin, and they're literally showing the Lion's Gate film, right? They're showing this on the TV. I couldn't believe it. It's too many signs pointing to 8/8. So on top of all that, the last four digits of my license are actually 8888. And I'm a keyboardist in a band. A keyboard has 88 keys. So yeah, I had to share that because it's really, really crazy. There's no way that's a coincidence. Looking at the movie Back to the Future, you have this image of the Lion Estates, right? And it's a gate, right? The Lion's Gate. And what is Back to the Future? It's all about going 88 miles an hour to go into the future and into the past, right? And so you have also Pope Leo. Leo has to do with the lion constellation Leo, right? And since he became Pope, to 8/8 is 92 days. We also have an 8 connection with that because that's the 8th pentagonal number. Back on 8/8, 2022, that's when Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago was raided. Trump equals 88. And we had the fires in Hawaii, Maui fires, on 8/8, 2023. And last year, I think there was a large 7 point something earthquake in China on 8/8, 2024. So here we are coming on 8/8, 2025. We just had the 8.8 magnitude earthquake. On top of all the evidence I just showed you guys, I think we're going to see another event. I guess we're going to have to wait and find out, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Take care.